welcome to the Why Not Now podcast.
Why Not Now podcast. I was hoping to do it together.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To,
1, 2, 3.
Why
Welcome
Not
to the,
Now?
One more time.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome.
1, 2. Welcome to the Why Not Now podcast. Nailed it. I think the fourth time is the charm. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Why Not Now podcast listeners. We are welcoming back Dr. C.R. What was the last? B. CRB to the podcast, talking about mental health, mental performance. You are a professor at Holy Names University. Last podcast, we talked a little bit about your history, how you fell in love with the mental health field, specifically within athletes, just being able to perform at their top level. You talked about seeing a huge change with Barry Zito and his prior years in the Giants to his final year in the 2012 World Series, where he was a huge part of that team. And we talked a little bit about behavioral activation, which was amazing. Thank you so much for breaking that down for everybody in our listeners. And today we're talking about something just as important that takes a little bit more time to break down. So we want to make sure we get right to that. And we're doing something called the 5 dubs. And it's not the starting 5 lineup for the Golden State Warriors. It's the other 5 dubs, which might be more important and more vital for day-to-day life than the starting 5 lineup for the Warriors. Exactly.
We're here to talk about performance. We're talking about mental health and performance from a mental health expert, a clinical sports psychologist. And the name of your business, Dr. CRB?
It is JCB Performance and Wellness.
JCB Performance and Wellness. You can see her there for some consulting. And tell us more about the 5 W's and why we should use that to perform our best lives in sport or whatever it is.
Yeah, it could go wherever you want to apply it, right? So I always say know your dubs. And these 5 dubs, the 5 W's are you need to know your why, your worth, your willpower, your well-wishers, and when to walk. So, we could break that down. You want me to go one by one?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I'm curious about when to walk personally, Joe. What are you curious about?
I want to know all 5. I just want to know how they come together as one package to be able to help you.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just ready for it. Let's do it. The why. That's the first one's why, right?
First one is why.
All right.
And so this is your meaning. I am someone who really pushes this and wants to get other folks to identify what is it? What's your purpose? What is your why? And in terms of exercise, why is this so important to you? Where does it come into play in your life? And using that as a starting point, that will be your motivation. That's what keeps you there, is your why. And then that we could go into your worth. Know your worth. Know that you have value. And remember that when you start to feel pretty low, or maybe other folks are not treating you the way you feel like you should be treated, you have to know your worth. You have to know what is good for you, what you need, and know that you are deserving of it. So remembering that W, your worth. Then the willpower, this is knowing your limits, knowing your capacity, knowing when knowing if you do have that ability to say no when you should say no. And so when it comes to willpower, we could also work on this. We could expand our limits. We could expand our capacity of what we can take. But knowing what that is, at least you could go into situations just knowing what you're capable of. And then the fourth one is your well-wishers. And I think this is big too. We don't want to be surrounded by people who say yes to everything, are like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, keep doing that. Or you're doing great. When in reality, you need that feedback that's honest. And the people who want the best for you, your well-wishers, are usually the ones who will tell you the truth. On the opposite side, you also have those folks who just are really negative. And even when you accomplish something huge, they don't celebrate with you. It's more of negative criticizing. Yeah. So you want to stay away from those. You want to be around people who are authentic and support you in a way that is authentic and helpful. And the last one, when to walk. This also has to do with limits. Know when when something is no longer beneficial for you, if you are engaged in any type of like sport, when is it time to walk? When is it time to, hang up the cleats and go? Because you could also look back to, is my why still being addressed here? Or is my worth being recognized? So we need to know, when is it time to walk away from what we're doing. And this could even be in a profession, because oftentimes we stay longer than what is beneficial for us, and that will in turn affect our performance. It'll affect our mental health. It'll affect our relationships with other people around us.
That's actually been something cool to see in the pandemic. I've seen a lot of people, move, change careers, go back to school, like myself, right? New beginnings, new opportunities. And I feel like that's been a big takeaway being in the program. I think performance psychology, one of the big themes is knowing how to see the bright side of things, knowing how to be optimistic, seeing everything as a growth or a challenge rather than as a failure, right?
Yeah, because a lot of our work is rooted in positive psychology. So we do look at that side of it, and it's not being blinded or being shaded by our rose-colored glasses. It's being realistic and seeing what is going to help us through this. And if that means, gratitude, if it means looking at the positive side of things, then that's what we're going to take to keep going.
With the 5 Ws, is it like a regimen? Like you need to start with your why, and then you need to start with your will, and then go to, is it like regimented like that, or is it just, is it?
No, I would say it's pretty dynamic. When I work with folks, I like to start with the why, but it doesn't mean we have to go in order of how I introduced it. It could go back and forth. And, sometimes, let's say 4 out of 5 of them are being addressed, and we'll have to just revisit another one. Because sometimes, let's say, when it comes to our value, we forget about that. It's easy to get wrapped up in other people and putting other people before us. And that could come along when it's time for exercise, right? We have our kids to take care of, we have a family. So we put ourselves aside. We forget our own value and what we need to feed that piece of us. Then we got to revisit that W, what is it that we need to fulfill our worth?
Is that the most important question, do you think? You put it number 1 when you introduce it to us, but is the why, and you ask it to your clients and your students first, why is asking the why the most important part of the 5 Ws?
For me, I feel like it is the most important, and just, with knowing your dubs, but just in life in general, the way that I see our meaning and our values, that's the compass that leads us in our journey, right? We have a direction that we're going. And in order for us to feel like we're moving towards a direction that means, and not just means something, but a direction that we want to be going to meet our optimal selves, we have to be led by that purpose, by that meaning. And when we're not, that's where we feel kind of lost. When we're not going according to who we are. If we value family and we're starting to go a direction that doesn't line up with that value, it doesn't feel right inside of us. So addressing that why is really important, so that all parts of us, we're all on the same track here.
Do you feel like the why is sometimes the hardest part of the, because I know for me, if someone asks me for me, creating, setting a goal or something like that, the why might be the hardest part for me to come up with, because it could come down to any number of things. Just I just want to feel good, and then I feel like that's too general. I want to feel more fit, or more articulate, or more create, or see already so many things. How do you help someone kind of zero in on one goal as opposed to too many goals to try to even conquer?
That is a great question. And that's why before we even set goals, I like to figure out what the why is, because the why is, like I said, the compass. And along our path, our destinations are the goals. And so when we figure out what our why is, and a piece of that, what makes it so hard is we judge ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll say, oh gosh, I don't want to say that. I want to look good during summer because that sounds so superficial. But if that's what it is, that's what it is. If you value physical appearance, there's nothing wrong with that. And to be able to own that and recognize, that's my value. That's what I find meaning. That's where I want to be. And being able to accept that, I think that is so important. So as you're making these goals, then it feels good. It's not like, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, but we recognize, okay, I want to look good. Physical appearance is important to me. So these destinations along my journey, it makes sense. And all parts are congruent here.
I recently read a book. I've been reading a book on vacation. It's on burnout, and I forget the two authors. And it's actually geared towards in the feminist approach by two twins. You might know what book I'm talking about, Dr. CRB, but they talk about, kind of go off your question, Joe, having something greater than yourself as a why is a more stable and strong source that will usually kind of always be there. So you can focus on any why, but having something that's really bigger than yourself, a legacy perhaps, or something that's one way to think of it. I think the other two one was spiritual. Something spiritual can always is larger than oneself, and I forget what the other one was, but I think that's also a great way to think of it.
It's very scary to think about too. Look like legacy. I can't think about that right
now. Do you want a documentary that will live forever? That will people always talk about that you made. Like something like that. That could be your compass.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and that totally falls in line with just that meaning. When we're all done, when we look at our development and we get to a place when we're older and that stage of development where we're reflecting upon life, are we going to look back and feel like, I did it. I have something to look back on and I'm happy. I could live the rest of my life content and not in that state where I'm a grumpy old person because I have regrets. So keeping that part of us intact, just like you said, the meaning, the purpose, that will get us, that's our direction. So that at the end, we'll feel good about our life and that we led it the way we wanted to.
And there's no better time to do that than right now.
A
year into the pandemic.
Yeah. Happy 1 year, Dr. CRB.
1 year. Lots of time for reflection.
Yes.
That's the best time for reflection.
And the most important question, Joe, which you had for Dr. CRB on The Bachelor.
Oh, that's right. Tonight, this episode will be coming out in, I think, about 2 weeks. So we will already know. But you can call it now to see who you think is going to win. So do you have any predictions? For some background context, we're all big Bachelor fans here. Matt James, this season's Bachelor, they're doing it somewhere in Pennsylvania because, of quarantine stuff. It was a record-setting year because he's the first Black Bachelor. Record-setting for how many women he, came in to try to, win his heart. Not record-setting. There's, racial tension around, the show again. But whatever. We're not here to talk about that. Our finalists are, well, I guess we have to talk about it because of who the finalists are. But we don't have to talk about it on this podcast. But the finalists are, we have Michelle and we have Rachel. And tonight's the finale. A lot of people have different opinions on this. But we ask you, Dr. CRB, who do you think that Matt James will pick or give his final rose to?
I like Michelle. I feel like she's great. I mean, look at those arms, right? You could tell that
straight up.
Yeah.
Exercises.
Yeah, she's great. She's got this.
That she could hold her own, and she's a teacher, so soft spot.
Exactly.
Soft spot for us, and so I really like her. But because I do, I'm pretty sure it won't be her because she's the safe choice. So I'm thinking, what's her name? Rachel?
Yes.
I'm thinking it's her. Also because her one-on-one, she got that shopping spree.
Yeah.
So
that's a huge tell.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
And Michelle got a milk bath. So if you're dating someone and they take you, which makes you feel more special, a shopping spree on them or a milk bath? And a butter rub down, right?
Well, it depends. I mean, one would be a very unique first time experience. The other one would be like, the other one would be more fun. I guess I would enjoy that one more. Yeah, the shopping spree.
Yeah. So
I think it's about like when you're picking what your date is, which one do you think is the one where he needs to see if he really likes you?
Yeah.
And the other one is more like, I like you already, so here, like, have all this stuff.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's deep.
I'm with you, Dr. CRB. As much as I love Michelle, and I think she's great, I do think I would pick Michelle too over Rachel. But I do think Rachel, I think she's going to get the final rose. And I was kind of rooting for that a little bit anyway, because I think Michelle would make a great bachelorette. But the other big spoiler tonight, I'm not sure if I'm spoiling anything anymore because this podcast is gonna be a little dated. But Katie, the girl who brought the dildo on her first night, who's like a mental health and like a sexual health advocate as well, she's going to be the next bachelorette. That's the rumor. It could be. I think it might be announced tonight, but we'll see. Very excited for that.
Well, she's from Washington.
Yeah, that's right. She's from Washington.
Yeah.
B, who's your pick? Who's your final rose going to?
Oh, I'm going
So we both
Michelle.
said Rachel.
I know you guys both. I think Michelle's gonna win. I actually truly think I'm gonna go for the upset. And everybody wants it to happen. I think actually what we all want to happen will happen.
We need that so bad this year. In the year 20, please just give us something that we can count on.
Yeah.
But I mean, Bachelor's never been one to really show up for us. So no, we're asking them to do it this time.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Well, another great episode with you.
Exactly.
And our lovely guest. Thank you, Professor. I'll see you in class in about 20 minutes.
Thanks for having me. This is really fun.
Absolutely. Where can people find you if they listen to this episode? They love what you said. They want to learn more. Where can they find you?
You could find me at jcbperformanceandwellness.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Doctor. And as always, we have to ask ourselves this at the end of every question, or at the end of every podcast. Why not now?